Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Let's see. All right, so as you know, we've been talking about state teamwork. Okay, so we're talking about how to work with partners. How do we work within teams? How do we work on kind of like a horizontal relationship? So as you remember, we already talked about this vertical relationship where we are talking about managing people. And now we're talking about horizontal relationships when we are managing projects and we are working in projects with other people. And so we started off talking about state teamwork. And the thing about state teamwork is that it helps us to understand who is involved in the project and what are the outcomes that each of these entities want. And then after that project is complete, what was the purpose? Why did we work on this project? Why are we trying to complete this project? It's because we need the outcomes from that project to do what? And then throughout the process of working on the project, what is it that how do we benefit by working through this project? What are the things that we can reuse through doing this project together? And then also, once we achieve the result, what are we going to do with that result? So those are reuses. So, all right, so I know what I want, he knows what he wants, she knows what she wants, we know what we want, all right? We know why we're doing this project, and then we know what we're working toward. Next, we talked about how, like, we support each other, all right? So we're supporting each other. What are the actions that we need to take to support each other? And then specifically, like maybe if I'm a company and you're a company and that other person's a company, then probably there's actually some entity personas, all right? So there's actually staff, there's people, specific people that need to do specific types of work in order to achieve this ability to work together, to support each other. All right, so that was state teamwork. And then from there, we started talking about state inventiveness. Because often all right, so there's two areas, all right? So when we are specifically working with other people, that area of support, how do we support each other? And also when it comes to the staff, the entity personas, the people who are doing the work, there can be situations where you need to have a discussion, some brainstorming about how are we going to support each other? What are the things that we can do? And also, how is my team or the people, the staff or the entity personas that I'm working with that are preparing things in order to so that we can support each other. We also need to do some brainstorming with them. All right, so there's two areas where we need to be more innovative. And the state inventiveness checklist, it gives us at least 4 different themes for brainstorming. All right, so like reusing. So how do we imitate processes that have been used before and integrate and also how do we should ignore, what are things we shouldn't do? And then basically there's the 4th one is ideate, which is that's what everyone does anyways. Let's come up with some ideas. All right, and then also if you are actually in the process of building a new business, all right, so if you haven't used the state teamwork checklist necessarily, you're just trying to understand how to develop your own business, then there's like 5 or 6 other themes in order to help you to think through this process of like creating a prototype, and then how do you gather people together in order to create a company, in order to develop a prototype, create it into a product, and then how do you integrate that product into the market, into different types of platforms, and also how to, there's just like there's a whole infrastructure of ideas and themes around being innovative. Then yesterday we went into the state assumptions checklist. All right, so as you brainstorm, then you're going to come up with a whole bunch of topics and themes and keywords and areas where you actually need to do some research in order to, because you can't just brainstorm, right? You brainstorm in order to what? In order to pinpoint the specific details that you need to do more research about. And then you got to go deeper. You need to find those answers. And so I just talked about the developing a basic database and then using that basic database in order to mine data, make that data into some type of knowledge, and then derive insight from that knowledge, and then make sure that it's good quality and that it is appropriate for the decision you're trying to make, and then being able to articulate the extent of that insight and how well can we how well can we make a decision based on the insight that we've derived from this research process, and then being able to tell people, all right, so this is the insight that we gained from this process, and with this insight, we are like, how confident are we about making this decision based on this information? All right, so then you can take that information and plug it back into your state teamwork checklist about, like, how do we support each other, and what are the things that we need to do in order to achieve those outcomes. Now, there's a possibility that even though you think you might have the right answer, or like maybe there's more than one scenario, right? So that's the thing. It's like, remember when we did the state impact checklist? So this whole playlist, when I go back and look at this playlist, it's like, wait a minute, why did you make it so confusing? Because we did state impact for what, like 3-4 weeks? Like, I did the dream inside of the dream inside of the dream. It was crazy. Like, when I look back at it, it just seems absolutely nuts. And I mean, if you understood all of that, then you are a genius. Congratulations, you're a bona fide genius. And so today I just wanted to just make it really quick. Like, all right, so last time I talked about state impact and it took me 3 weeks. Now I want to talk about state impact, and I want to do it in like 2 minutes. All right, so the state impact checklist is to evaluate courses of action. So the first step is to frame the context. All right, so that's pretty simple. You just say, like, here's the context where scenarios occur. And this is like, when you're talking to your girlfriend or your girlfriend, talking to your friend about, like, you just broke up. It's like, what happened? All right, so this is the context. It's the story behind this the scenario. And then you start to go into the scenarios. Okay, so what are we going to do about this? All right, so you told me the context. You told me all the factors around what happened. Now, what are the different scenarios that we can work with? We can do A, we can do B, we can do C. All right, so what are the similarities with A, B, and C? Now, usually it's like, if you're in a relationship, A, B, and C, the similarities are that the problem will not be solved. All right, so it's going to take a lot of patience, and it's probably better if you just forget about it. All right, so then what are the differences? That's the most important, all right? So articulating the differences. Now, after you figured out the differences, that's when it's like, all right, so let's choose some metrics, all right? So what's important here? The long-term aspects of this relationship, the holding the family together, forgiveness, growth, understanding that we have to give each other time in order to understand each other better. Like, this is in a relationship, but like, or is it like me getting my own way, or being able to avoid this type of problem in the future? All right, so what are the metrics that you think are the most important here? You need those metrics in order to make that decision. But the first thing that you do is you use those metrics to evaluate the differences even further. And then after you've evaluated those differences based on the metrics, then you can declare the significance. Based on this metric, this is the difference, this is why it's important, and then boom. So therefore I choose A. I make a decision. Then after you've made that decision, you recap the essentials, all right? So this is the process that I went through. These were the differences between scenarios. These are the metrics which are the most important, which highlighted this difference as being more important than the others. This is why it's significant, and this is why I made the decision. State impact.